Right now, we're going to go back in time to another time and another place. If we're recording, you're about to hear something that you will find familiar. Are you ready for it? Because here we go. The old train tracks. The old train tracks. It's too meek a whistle. Let's try another freight train. Let's have a freight train sound. We'll do a Thanksgiving show for you, but I need sound effects. Yeah, okay, we got it. We got it. I take you back in time to an America that no longer exists. An America that is long dead. Oh, yeah, you know where I'm going here. We're ready to ride on the Savage Nation with memories of Thanksgiving past. I'm sure the TikTok generation has tuned out already because they're always ready to ride the latest fashion and stupidity. So we'll exclude the idiots. We'll exclude the 30 million invaders that don't even know what a train sounds like in America. All they know is about the gravy train. And I'll take you back in time to Thanksgivings that I remember very well with my dear Mama Savage, who's been in heaven quite a while. If there is a heaven, and if there is a heaven, I hope I join her and not be sent to the other place. So it's Thanksgiving. I'm a child, the Bronx. But instead of being Thursday, it's the Wednesday. It's yesterday. It's the yesterday of yesterdays. And on Wednesdays, I would sit there nervously in the classroom in the public school in the Bronx. My hands would get sweaty around 11 o'clock in the morning because I knew I was going to get out of school early that day on Wednesday. My mother was coming to get me and my sister. Or is it my sister and I? Well, she got me and my sister early. And it was the most exciting day of my life because what would happen is, let's see, we would take two buses and a train down to Penn Station. And we'd get on a train that was going to go over to Pennsylvania to our cousins. And we had to go underneath the river, the Hudson River, on a train. And you're not going to believe this, but in those days, there were actually steam trains driven by coal. I know it sounds like another universe. It was another universe. And, well, later on, they were switched over to electric trains in Penn Station. And then when they get over the river, under the river, and come out in New Jersey, they would switch to a coal train. If you can believe it, there were coal trains. I don't mean John. I'm talking about trains that ran on coal. So let's start back in Penn Station. The hustle, the bustle, the people. There was no crime. Nobody was getting stabbed. No one was getting pushed in front of a subway train by a lunatic who belonged in a mental asylum or an electric chair. No maniac was catered to because they were big cops. They were big cops. They were like, they had to be a certain height. They couldn't be shrimps. They couldn't look like bowling pins from a lesbian bowling alley. They were huge, big men. Mainly white men, but some black men, as long as they were big enough to take a nightstick and hit it over the head of a bum who was threatening a normal citizen, they were made into a cop. So there was order and there was law. No one was ever hurt in that station that I remember. Maybe there were pickpockets. I never heard about them. So hustle and bustle, get on the train, settle in, get ready, under the river we go, come out in New Jersey we are. switch over to the coal train and get ready for the ride into the deep, deep heart of coal country in Pennsylvania to visit the relatives on Thanksgiving in times gone past. I'd sit and watch the world go by. I'd buy my magazines. I always bought these magazines. I was always into magazines as a kid. You can't even find magazines in bookstores anymore. If you go into Barnes and Noble, there's no magazines. At least I can't find them. Maybe in your Barnes and Noble. Mine went out of business. And I would buy, remember the magazines I bought? Even as a kid, I bought country magazines about hunting in the country. And I don't hunt, by the way. I love the hunting magazines because I was a gun fanatic even as a child. I always loved guns. I was obsessed with, no, I was fascinated by guns. Different word than obsessed. Fascination is different than obsession. I was fascinated by guns, and I loved magazines about guns and hunting in the country. I loved seeing deer, things about deer out there. There were no deer in Manhattan or no deer in, there was nothing deer in the Bronx, and there was nothing deer in Manhattan, but there are lots of deers out in Pennsylvania and other who remembers what other magazines we had? And then I'd get a sandwich on the train. All the porters were black men in white starched uniforms. Everyone was happy to have a job. The Pullman men made a good living. No one complained. They were glad to have a job as a Pullman guy. We never felt the racial thing. The guy, I don't know. I didn't care the guy was black or white. He was a black. I'm just remembering. Black guy, starched uniform, and a nice guy. No anger, no undertones of hostility because we happened to buy a cheap seat on a train going to Pennsylvania. He didn't see us as the aristocrat ruling class. We didn't see him as a servant. It was a guy who worked on a train. And I remember ordering a ham sandwich, as strange as it is. It's the thing I loved the most as a kid on those trains. They were cut a certain way. I don't know. They were cut square. It's like the Petite Madeleines, if you know the reference, the literary reference. No one even knows what literary means, but they were like my Petite Madeleines. They were ham sandwiches. Remember, this is not of Proust, but of Savage. And then the train would go across the countryside, blah, 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 get into Pennsylvania. Now, here's the beautiful part. The train would get into Pennsylvania to my cousin's house, the city that he was in, the town. And I never forget to this day. Now, remember, it's a steam train driven by coal, probably Lehigh Railroad. So the train gets into the station. Of course, it stops, but the engine is still huffing and puffing. I mean, it was like a living being. Those big trains were like living beings. So you're getting off the train and you're holding your mother's hand and you're looking for your relatives and you can't see anyone. It's just filled with smoke and steam. And you don't know where you are. You don't know if they're going to actually show up. You don't know if they're going to be there. And you're like a little freaked out for a moment because what if they don't show up? What if you went to the wrong town? You're a kid. You don't know any of these things. It's all confusing. It's like, where the hell are you? And out of the smoke and the fog and the steam comes your uncle and your cousins. And there they are. And you grab each other and you hug each other. And you can't believe what a beautiful time you're going to have. Simple things, right? Just simple things. And there it was. There's the train into the hinterlands of Pennsylvania. I'd put on the first minute we got into my cousin's house. He was older than me by about 3 years. He was very tall. I just lost my brother. I think he became sort of my brother rather than my cousin. Maybe they were trying to take care of me or something mentally because no one ever talked in those days about loss or at all. You lose a parent, no one ever said, how are you? No one gave a shit. It's like you just had to just be who you were. But I'm looking back now, and it was like probably they said, he must be feeling the loss of his brother. So, take good care. Who the hell knows? I don't remember. But I'm suspecting now, looking back as an older man, he became sort of my brother rather than just my cousin. And across from his house, there was a football field for the high school. In those days, high school football was a religion. I don't know, maybe it still is in small towns in America. And the big game was the Easton-Pittston football game, which you'd go to and freeze your butt off on the stands. It was so much fun. So before the game, we'd go out on that muddy field. It was ice cold, and he had the football gear. I was a little kid with the shoulder pads and the this pad and the that pad, and we'd run in the field till we got soaked with mud, throwing the ball around. Just, blah, 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 thinking about these things. Come in the house and relatives, everybody there. And my aunt was a great cook, and she'd make cakes and pies and turkeys and this and that. It was just fun. Everybody was pleasant and happy. And that's it. Now we'll go the other way. Easton Phillipsburg. Thank you. I don't remember. I thought it was Pittstown. I don't remember. Now, the reverse is really the story that I meant to tell you today before I go. It's not going to be a long day on the show. So sometimes for Thanksgiving, they would come to New York to our little attached house on Utopia Parkway, 20-foot wide, 100-foot by 20-foot, brick house attached. And it had a typical house, a little entryway, a living room to the right, a dining room, so to speak. It was clean. It was immaculate. Big table. So you're talking about getting, I don't know how many people in it. My mother cooked for a week alone. No prep chefs, nothing from the store. Everything was made by hand, and she made it all herself. She would cook for one straight week, dishes and this dish and that dish and this, and stuff the refrigerator. So then the turkey would come out. But to get to that table, around that table, there was a large hutch against the wall, and then the table was here. You get like, emasculated trying to squeeze across the back between the hutch and the table. You couldn't get in without getting your schmenger cut off. And she brought it out, man, and everyone, I don't know how she did it. I just don't know to this day. I just don't know how she did it. We would cook. I mean, she would cook and we'd eat, and everyone would talk about the food. Ray, how'd you do it? How'd you do it? How'd you do it? Everyone was complimentary. Today, they don't even compliment someone for cooking. Does anyone ever say the food is good? I don't even know. And we would eat and this and that. And then I don't know what we would do, take a walk in the neighborhood. Who remembers any of that? I remember squeezing into the dining room on Utopia Parkway. And the interesting part to me was the level of warmth between family members. Now, remember, it was a small house. So you had one bedroom for the adults and then two little bedrooms, one really tiny, the one I got. My sister got the little bigger one. So now you have relatives over. Where are they going to sleep? There was no such thing as a guest room or a guest house. You're not going to believe it. I never forget my uncle slept on the floor in the hallway up in the walkway between my bedroom and the parents' bedroom. And other relatives would be sleeping on the floor on blankets, I swear, and others would double up in the beds. I loved it. To me, it was like camping out. I loved my uncle sleeping on the floor. Now, what uncle would sleep on the floor today? Right? I don't know. It's just an interesting memory. I like a lot of people in a house. I don't want to go into my lifestyle right now. I'm a loner. I live in my own world, in my own house. I cook alone. I get together with family. Like right now, I am with family. They're in another house right now. We got together for dinner last night in a restaurant. I don't cook for the dinners anymore. We had a beautiful dinner. We had a wonderful time in a restaurant. Just beautiful. I brought no one drinks. That's the beauty here. Is there's more for me. I mean, I tried to share the Barolo, but nobody wanted it. Everyone's happy without the vino. One day I'm going to give up alcohol, but I'm not ready yet. I'm not old enough. Everyone I know went into rehab 40 years ago. I never had to. I only drink 2 glasses, and that's it. I never drink during the day. I don't drink at night. I don't drink in the morning. I tend to drink only with dinner, about 2 ounces of alcohol. All right. Someone asked me the other day, how much do you drink? I said, 2 ounces. They said, why? I said, well, after I had the medical incident 5 years ago, he said you could do 2 glasses a night. That was his dispensation. I remember the old days in radio. I used to joke. My peak was, I don't know what year it was. I would say 2016 was the peak of everything in career and radio and all of that. I remember saying as a joke on the radio that the American Medical Association says that we can have 2 ounces of absolute alcohol a night. And the British Medical Association says we can have 5 ounces of absolute alcohol a night. And I said, so I am definitely going to follow the advice of the British physicians. They've been around longer and they know more. And I used to drink at least, I'm talking in my heyday, 5, 6 drinks a night over the course. I don't mean like good. I never got drunk. I've been drunk twice in my life in my 30s, and I hated the experience. I never drank to get drunk, but I would drink 5, 6 over a long period of time, and I never felt it. I felt good. My limbs felt good, and you feel immortal. You don't feel like you don't worry about eternity. You don't worry about the darkness of the grave. You don't ask the questions of what's going to happen to my body after I die. For those moments that you are having those, I know many of you are into rehab or you're not drinking anymore, and I understand that, and I respect that. I'm not knocking it. I respect that you did that. I'm never going to do it. No matter what happens, I'm not doing it. I enjoy my wine, and once in a while I'll drink a vodka, but I limit it to 2 drinks a day. I've been drinking, by the way, since I'm 15 years old, in case you don't know it. Say, how the hell do you look so good at 83? Well, I don't know that I look so good. I'll be 84, God willing, in March. But I've been drinking since I'm 15 years old, one way or the other. It's never hurt me. Maybe I'd look better if I didn't drink. I don't know. You think I could look better? Who would I look like? Ted Turner? Tina Turner? Who would I look like? Someone said to me the other day, they said, how do you have such a good skin? What do you put on your skin? I said, I never look at my skin. Well, don't you put lotion on your skin? No. Do you put anything on your skin? No. Well, what do you do for your skin? I said, I don't know. I don't think about it. So now that he made me think about it, I actually got out the extra virgin olive oil and I put it all over my skin the other day, my arms, my legs. And I got to tell you, it felt good. The Mediterraneans knew what they were doing. They swam in olive oil. That's why they had such beautiful olive oil skin. You remember that scene in The Godfather? He got it with the olive oil skin. And I got to tell you this. She had music. I gave her music lessons. I gave her dance lessons. I gave her every lesson in the world. And then he came along with that giddy charm and that olive oil skin. And he stole her away. Let me tell you something. He's never going to appear in a movie again. I never forget that line. That was so good. What happened to Coppola? Poor guy lost $100 million in that movie. I can't even remember the name of it. Anyone see Coppola's last movie? Is he really broke? Did he put his last buck into that movie? You look great in the last turtleneck. What turtleneck? The gold one? You like the gold one better? Thought you were gone. I thought I was dead. I run into people that I haven't seen in years. Hey, Michael, how are you? What are you doing these days? I say, hello, I have 500 episodes on YouTube. Really? Yeah, go to Michael Savage on YouTube. I do 2 podcasts a week. Really? No kidding. Great. What else? What else do you want me to do? So, yeah, I do 2 podcasts a week. And I do episodes here on YouTube, X, and wherever. But I have 500 episodes on Michael Savage on YouTube. And the library alone is worth the cost of entry. It's beautiful stuff, cooking, this and that. So we have Indian train sound from a vestibule. Let me hear. I found free sound effects. Steam train at crossing. Good. That sounds like a Punjabi train filled with ghee. How are thee? There's not a lot of other memories. It was just family, what it comes down to, and my mother and the family on the floor and all of that. I know many of you want more, and you're with family now. What time is it, say? Like, it's not even 9 a.m. in the morning here on the West Coast, right? So it's noon, let's say, on the East Coast. So you're not eating yet. What time do people eat on Thanksgiving? What time do people eat on Thanksgiving? Does anyone know? Which story do you want to hear? One-arm Frank? I'm going to give you choices. Dead Man's Pants. I'm going to read one story from A Savage Life. Yes, still in print. Let's see. Dead Man's Pants. I've read that too many times, I think. Okay. Boy in the River. Slum Dialect. My Silent Brother, the electric blue saddle stitch pants, The Fly in the Tuna, Tough high school geometry teacher, 2 fingers on his right hand, Happy and Sad cufflinks, Woodchuck Bill, Dead Man's Pants, Sam the Butcher, Coney Island wax figures, Louie and his crazed monkey. I think that's The Leatherman Gets Brain Cancer. That's a real cheerful one. When Pasta Was Spaghetti, Separate Bedrooms. That's interesting. Separate Bedrooms. That's a funny one. I think I want to read Separate Bedrooms while you're coming up on there and telling me what you want me to play. Anybody have any choices? Separate Bedrooms. It's a joke I tell people. The men laugh and the women get very angry at me. So I'm not here to offend anybody. So I'm going to read it to you. It's called Separate Bedrooms, if I may. May I read Separate Bedrooms on this Thanksgiving? Many of you are waiting for your Thanksgiving dinner, right? Don't normal people eat around 2, 3 o'clock? We're having our Thanksgiving dinner at 3:30. So it's a long day's journey into tonight. And I figured there'd be a lot of people at home right now who want to hear the old story. They want to hear what I'm Frank. You're cooking with olive oil. That's why your skin looks nice. I think it's true. I've lived on olive oil for 40, 50 years now. It's the only oil I use, and I get the best. I like Arbequina olives, by the way. I told you I lived in Spain in the 60s, and I came to love the Spanish olive. So there's an American brand that they grow. I mean, you could grow Arbequina olives anywhere. I love the taste. They're sweeter. Some olive oil will burn your throat when you taste it, by the way. Wonder why you get a burning sensation. I love olive oil. But I also do something. I eat an avocado every day. Every morning, like clockwork. Avocado on a piece of bread with scallions. I eat scallions every day. For the last 10 years at least. Scallions every day. Avocados. I do like provolone cheese once in a while on it. I do love provolone. I try to avoid it, but I eat it. Too salty, and there's that. I read a story once about the number of married couples in the United States that choose to sleep in separate bedrooms. A survey showed that this trend is increasingly popular because of marital tension and disturbances in sleep as a result of sharing a bedroom. They're not calling this a separate bedroom because the people are embarrassed to admit it. They call it a flex suite instead to avoid any embarrassment. Let me tell you a little secret about that. It's only poor couples who sleep in the same bed for their whole lives. Generally, not everyone, don't get me wrong, but generally it's a mark of poverty to to have to share a bed with someone your whole life. Oh, that was really nervy of me. The fact of the matter is, if you study the history of this, let's start with royalty. They never shared the same bedroom, never mind the same bed. We're not talking about in the beginning phases when they were in the 90 days of marital heat. That's an understood fact. The 90-day period is over after 90, 91 days, according to every study that's ever been done. 90 days of insanity, then by 91 days, it's already over. It goes on to a certain extent, but after 90 days, you have to live with this person. So first, it starts out as twin beds in the same room, very close to each other with a little nightstand. Then it's not so much twin beds. You get the bigger beds in the same room. Then if you have a little money, that's how it works. That's the fact of the matter. There's no shame in it. You can still get together when you want, but you have 2 different lives, 2 different minds. Why do you have to share every second in the bedroom? What? That's some sacred place to be together? The way people are today individually, they don't want to be in the same room. And by the way, this is not limited to America. I'll give you an example, an anthropological experience about men and women. Shall I go on? In Fiji, let's go back to the years I was living in Fiji, collecting medicinal plants in the villages. This is a delicate subject. The men had a men's house and the women had a women's house. When a woman went through her monthly cycles, she went into the woman's house with the other women. The men didn't want to be around them during that time. Now, what does that make the men in Fiji? Does it make them sexist? Does it make them whatever-ist, you want to call it? They knew from their culture that they didn't want to be around the women at that time for whatever the reasons were. And I got news for you. The women would rather be with their friends at that time, too. So the guys went over with their friends in their separate house. They all hung out, slept in the same big straw hut, and the women slept together. That's how they did it in Fiji in the 60s. I'm giving you one example. I don't know if they still do it anymore. So this whole idea of how to raise a child or how to live with a woman, or for a woman, how to live with a man, there's no set rules in this area. A lot of what we see going on today is devolution, not evolution. The people don't actually understand how to live with each other or how to raise children. And what they always do is try an extremely tolerant methodology. People think that by going with liberal social mores, it's going to work, and it often doesn't. What you have to do is go back to the traditional methods of raising children and the traditional methods of living in the same household, man and woman, woman and man. Well, that was the extent of it, but I tell the story a different way. If it's a short story on the street and I'm just rapping with guys, I'll say, here's how it starts out. When you first meet each other, you can't let go of each other. You will sleep on the floor together on a rug. You will usually take a blanket on someone's rug if you have to stay together. Okay, then you move in together and you get the single bed. Then after the 90 days, you say, hon, can we get a slightly bigger bed? Or she says, can we get a slightly bigger bed? Sure, let's get it. Then you get the bigger mattress. Then you get the queen, then the king, then the California king. And then the kids come along and you're still in there. And then when they go, you move into their bedroom. They move into that bedroom. That's if you're still married. Then you get separate houses or separate counties or separate states or separate continents. But you stay married. That's the whole, you don't want to wind up in court. It's a joke. The guys like the joke, but it's not funny anymore. A guy sleeps with a woman. The next thing you know, he's being sued for rape. I don't understand that. There's some famous guy being sued for rape. Oh, the Google guy I read about, Schmidt. I don't know what he's worth, $700 billion. And he lives, apparently still married in an open marriage, I read, at his age. And he, he's always had girlfriends. And he's always, paid them off after the affair was over. And the women were happy with him. Now he hit one. There's some skank who's now suing him for rape. I never saw any. How could she live with him and have sex with him and sue him for rape? I don't know. How does that come in? Can anyone explain how a lawyer could get away with that in a court of law? Wait a minute. They were lovers. She went into it knowing he was married. It was an open marriage. And then she sued him for rape? That lawyer should be, well, I can't say it. It's a public show. I don't want to be thrown off YouTube. It's the lawyers. Shakespeare had it all right. Shakespeare knew what he was talking about when he wrote that. Remember that one? Who knows the show I'm talking about, what Shakespeare wrote about lawyers? I think it's time for Inside an Old Train. How about loud train horn? Oh, that's the one we want. Oh, here's one. Hungarian train ride. Who would put that up? Let me hear that one. Free sound. Oh, that sounds like a Hungarian train. That's a train. Hungarian train ride. That's a train with goulash. So I'll read you another story. Which one do you want to hear now? You want to hear Dead Man's Pants, or I've told it too many times? What's with this guy? Loves to talk about himself. Why don't you go talk about yourself? See how many people listen, moron. What did I say? Of course I talk about myself. What should I talk about? MAGA? You want to talk about Donald Trump? What, are you unhappy because I didn't say the Trump word? Afangu. Okay? See, I shouldn't look at the comments. I get triggered. There's something wrong with me. I actually get mad at people. I shouldn't pay attention to them. They're morons. Some of you are nice people. You enjoy it. Okay, let's go. Let's go to the next story. Dead Man's Pants nightclub. Dead Man. Anyone here? Dead Man's Pants. Boy in the basement. Talking to a bum about God. Being decent is not love. That's a good one. The knockout. That's too sad. Sam the Butcher. Savage's childhood diet. Prescription for a heart attack. If I tell you what I ate as a kid, I don't know how I lived past the age of 8. You know, they call it the carnivore diet today. My mother wrote it. All the men died from it in their 50s, which is why the women fed them so much fatty food. They wanted them dead. I think it was a matriarchal cult. They wanted the men dead earlier before them so they can move to Florida and talk about how great their husbands were. It was 5 o'clock, like clockwork after a hard day in high school when my mother, God bless her, would put a tray out for me. Oh, was I spoiled. I'm making up for it, though. Now I'm working my butt off. But the tray, the steak, the French fries, I'm talking French fries, steak, French fries. Here's the diet I had, the healthful diet. Breakfast was ham and eggs with a jelly donut. Lunch was something light, like a meatloaf sandwich with French fries. Dinner was something light, either steak or pot roast with some heavy potato dish, topped off with the health-enhancing cherry vanilla ice cream and a piece of pie, and maybe a glass of milk to go with it. And this went on for years. If I were to design an experiment to kill a pig in a laboratory, I'd give him that diet, that cardiotoxic diet for 3 months. The pig would roll over and drop dead of an occlusion. I don't know how I'm still kicking. So diet has something to do with nothing to do with or little to do with heart attacks. Now, admittedly, it does, because my father, may he rest in peace, died of an HA young, and my grandfather did as well. Well, what about great-grandfather back in the old country? I was hanging on to the hope that he lived to 103. Oh, I recently learned that he too died at 30. Thank you. 3 generations dead young. I'm the oldest living savage in the history of the family. See, every day is like a miracle. And I also know because I spent 3 decades studying diet and health. And that's why I went into human nutrition. That's why I searched for the secret to longevity for years in the jungles of the South Seas. I'm one of the original ethnobotanists in the field. What I discovered is this: not much is known. What is known, though, is very important, such as which vitamins you take and in what proportions, which foods you eat and in what proportions, and which herbs to take when. What is known is very interesting and can be life-saving. I'm a fanatic about mega nutrition. I'm a fanatic about large doses of vitamin C, B6, niacin, and E, and have been for 30 years. Now it's 50 years. And I eat onions and garlic, tomatoes, and red grapes every day. That's interesting. This was written in 2016. Let's see. Do I eat onions? Yes, every day. I love onions. Garlic? Yes. Tomatoes? Yeah. Can't get a good one anymore unless you grow them. There's no taste, tasteless. I try to eat red grapes every day. I love grapes. So, yeah, there's a lot to be said for that. And vitamins for sure. 100% mega vitamin. I'm a mega vitamin guy. I should talk about vitamin C because it's vitamin C has been pushed aside as a longevity-inducing nutrient by the drug establishment. They want you to believe that you don't need it. That's bullshit. Now, Linus Pauling was the greatest genius of his time and probably for the next 100 years. And then the medical establishment spent as much time as they could debunking the vitamin C theory. They knew nothing about it. It was strictly to get you off something that was pretty cheap and readily available to keep you healthy. And it was the vitamin C that I took. And I've been taking it since on megadose level, 1 to 3 grams a day. When sick, maybe 6 grams a day, at least 40, 50 years, maybe more now. Who knows? In the 50s. I don't know when I started this, maybe in the 70s. In the 70s, when I was exposed to orthomolecular nutrition and Linus Pauling, 1 gram a day. Now, I'm going to tell you Dr. Cathcart's bowel tolerance theory. Dr. Cathcart, look him up, Cathcart, Robert Cathcart III, Cathcrt. He was one of my best friends. I loved him. He was one of the greatest people I ever met on the planet. Kindly, intelligent. So Bob earned his medical degree at Stanford when it was still a great school. It probably is still a great medical school, but he got his MD from a great medical school. He didn't get it from Guadalajara Med. He didn't get it from Punjabi Medical School and come over here and cheat on exams to become a doctor with a turban in the hospital, whatever. God bless them all. So Bob was an MD from Stanford when it mattered, and he had a practice up in Lake Tahoe. Regular, he was an orthopedic surgeon, by the way. So he would fix broken bones as an orthopedic surgeon. And he noticed something happening in the late 60s and early 70s, which was that the patients who broke their bones skiing, who were self-medicating with vitamin C in recovery, were healing 50% faster than the patients who were not taking ascorbic acid. So being a good doctor and a great observer, he observed that, and he started to experiment with his patients. And so whenever he would heal someone through surgery, he would then prescribe a certain amount of vitamin C as well. And they too, their bones would knit 50% faster. Now, the reason, of course, is well known to science today. It's because vitamin C promotes the production of collagen, which is necessary for the production of bone tissue. So from that, Dr. C went into C, and man, did he become the best. And he developed a theory called the Cathcart theory of, I'll tell it to you, you're getting it for free right now, but look it up, the bowel tolerance theory. Now, people say I took vitamin C and it didn't help. Well, there's two reasons. One, you didn't take the right vitamin C. Taking a pill with it says 1 gram. Most vitamin pills are empty of any value whatsoever. They're made by shysters, and they're devoid of any nutrition value whatsoever. That's number one. I mean, it's like, there are cars. There's a Bentley, there's a Rolls Royce, there's an Audi, there's a Volvo, there's good cars. And then today, most cars are pretty good, but then there's bad cars. Very few bad cars anymore. But in the day, there were Yugos made in Yugoslavia, for example. So it's the same with vitamins. There's high quality. You got to get a high quality vitamin C powder. Don't get them in capsules. There's nothing in there. It's filled with mummy dust. So I'm not going to give you a brand right now. It's not selling anything. The day will come that I may give you brands. I take a powdered vitamin C, and I have for at least 50 years. I'll be straight up with you. I mean, started in the 70s. You're going back now. It's 50 years now. I started my mega dosing on vitamin C almost when I moved to California. And let's say I moved here in 74. I went to University of California at Berkeley in 75. I earned my PhD in 3.5 years. And I got into the orthomolecular medical movement around 1977, 78. That's when I learned about vitamin C. So I've been taking mega doses since then. And I would say vitamin C is one of the greatest longevity-inducing nutrients of all. I don't care what you say. I'm not looking at it. You're all stupid. You know nothing about it. Nothing. I'm not even looking at the comments. I'll turn them off. I don't want to hear what the ordinary schmuck has to say. So the genius Linus Pauling taught the world that man is one of the few mammals that does not make his own vitamin C. He needs to get it from outside himself. A dog, for example, the reason a dog can smell fecal matter and go into those horrible, disgusting bushes. I used to pull Teddy away. I didn't even like my dog doing it because I had to take him home. I didn't want him rubbing in the bush with the other dog's pee on him. Dogs are very filthy, by the way. The Muslims have it right. I love dogs, but they are dirty. I mean, the dogs are very dirty. They're filthy. People who kiss their dogs are insane, totally insane. And the women who push them around in carriages should have their head. Well, I don't blame the women. The men won't get married. They don't have the balls to be a father. So what's the difference? So the thing is, the vitamin C and all that. He develops a theory, first Pauling, and I'll tell you the Cathcart evolution of the Pauling theory. So Pauling teaches us that the gorilla, for example, eats the greens of the jungle, and he calculated that an average human who weighs 150 to 200 pounds needed, I think he said, about 1 gram of vitamin C a day. I don't remember what he said. That's 1,000 milligrams. And we don't manufacture it. Most mammals manufacture their own vitamin C from food. We lost it in evolution, which is why we have to eat fruits and vegetables, and in most cases, supplement our diet with supplement it with ascorbic acid or sodium ascorbate. I don't use sodium ascorbate because I avoid the sodium, but ascorbic acid. And so you see the gorilla. The gorilla eats the leaves, and the leaves contain vitamin C. Okay, we don't eat like that many greens enough to get the vitamin C that we need, so we need to supplement it. So Cathcart developed a theory that when you're healthy, you need about 1 gram of vitamin C a day, 1,000 milligrams when you're healthy. Okay? Think about what that's small. When you get sick, you need more vitamin C. So how do you know how much vitamin C you need? The Cathcart theory of bowel intolerance goes like this. The sicker you are, the more vitamin C you need until you develop bowel intolerance. What does that mean? And I've told this to many people. They said, I have the flu. I don't feel good. I'm really in bad shape. I said, did you take vitamin C? Yes. How much? Oh, I took 1 gram. Not enough. I said, get powdered vitamin C and go home. Now, I have changed the Cathcart protocol and added my own addition to that, which I'll tell you about in a minute. I found it something that's like an atom bomb that augments even the vitamin C powder theory. You have the flu, you're coughing, you feel like crap. So you take the powdered vitamin C, you take 4 grams at first. What is 4 grams? It's a flat teaspoonful. Flat teaspoon in juice, like unsweetened grapefruit juice, for example. I'll give you an example. Drink that's 4 grams. Now, if you don't get bowel intolerance, meaning gas, within a half an hour, you need more. That means you have a 6-gram cold. So take another 2 grams. If you still don't get bowel intolerance at 6 grams, take another 4 grams. You're going to now have 8 grams. If you made 10 grams, you may be even sicker. You keep taking the vitamin C when you're sick until you get the bowel intolerance, which is the gas. And then you back it down. You don't cut it off. So you're up at 6 grams, cut it back to 4. The next 4 hours later, take another 4 grams. You're getting bowel intolerance, cut it back to 3 grams, then 2 grams, then go back to your maintenance dose of 1 gram. That's Cathcart's bowel tolerance theory of vitamin C, and it's worked for many people. Now, over the last 5 years, I've helped a lot of people by telling them what I have developed to go with that. It's like it just somehow triggers something in me, maybe not for everyone, which is adding vitamin A. Vitamin A is the most unknown factor in fighting colds and flu that people can imagine, in my opinion. I have not done double-blind studies on this, but I'll tell you from personal experience, the people I've helped, if you're taking that vitamin C, also add the vitamin A to it. My first dose of vitamin A when I'm really sick is 100,000 units. Now, remember, vitamin A is different than vitamin C. Vitamin C is water-soluble. Eventually, you will pass it through your urine. Vitamin A is fat-soluble. It doesn't leave your body quite as fast. So you have to watch out how much you take of vitamin A. And you should know that at an upper limit of vitamin A, you'll kill yourself. You'll get killed. So don't overdo it. Sorry. And there's a famous story of polar explorers. I don't remember which group. They were hunting to survive. Their ship went up on the ice and they got locked in the ice, and they were hunting polar bears, very sad. And they killed a polar bear because they were starving. And they all ate the polar bear liver and died in this expedition because polar bear liver is the richest source of vitamin C, I think, on the planet. Go figure that one out. What does that polar bear eat? It doesn't eat animals. It lives on plankton and stuff. Really amazing. That thing is one of the most. I've always loved the polar bear. If I were to redo a career, I'd become an ethologist who studied polar bears. I think they're the most magnificent animal on the planet. Don't tell it to Donald Trump and Trump Jr. because they'll liable to go kill one. I am so against hunting noble creatures. I hate it. I'm the guy who cheers for the bullfighter to get gored. I love when I see a bullfighter getting gored in that fag outfit, getting a horn up his Pratt, which he wanted anyway, in that faggy Toreador outfit, tormenting a poor bull in the ring. That thing was brought into Spain, by the way, by the Muslims to torture an animal in the ring. Horrible. Well, why would you go hunt a bighorn sheep that's hiding at 8,000 feet to get away from a scumbag with a rifle? Why would you hunt an animal that is hiding from you? Because it has a mother, and it has a father, and it has a wife up there in the cave, and it has children, and you're going to hunt it like a prick with your high-powered rifle? You think you're a macho man? You're a piece of shit. You bastards. You hunt these creatures to extinction, you sons of bitches, you. Go have a dance in the new ballroom in the White House for all I care. I hate it. And if you think I'm not MAGA, you could shove it up you-know-what, where the sun don't shine. I invented MAGA before it was taken over by the con men. I did the Paul Revere Society in 1994, Borders, Language, Culture, before it was turned into a money tree. So don't tell me I'm not MAGA. And raping the earth in Alaska is not MAGA. It's the greediest thing I've ever seen in my life. Teddy Roosevelt, one of the greatest presidents in history, and a Republican, and a hunter, by the way, created all these national parks and bird sanctuaries. Why? Because he knew that he wanted to protect the lands for future generations. He didn't destroy the land for a quick buck. Now, how I got there from train sounds, I don't know. But I don't care how I got there. I just got there. It's free association. I think I've done enough. I've been with you long enough, and I think I've told you enough stories for Thanksgiving. What's this boy in the basement? No, I don't want to read that. It's too sad. Saul and Charlie were brothers, and Molly Bloom was their brother. Molly was the brother who didn't do anything. He was the bum. He lived with Saul and Effie and the 3 children in one small apartment on the Lower East Side. The years would go on, and he never left the ghetto. Never, Molly Bloom. I learned later was a character of James Joyce, a woman, the daughter of a major. But in this case, Molly Bloom was this Jewish ne'er-do-well who lived with the brother and the wife in a 2-bedroom apartment on Allen Street. You know that's pretty good writing. It's good storytelling. It's not TikTok. It's not AI generated. There's a story in here you should read called The Speculator in the Garden of Numbers. It's very funny because it's about a bookstore owner in Manhattan who's sort of a socialist communist, like all of them were. And he hates the rich people in Manhattan at the time. And he has all of the sensibilities of the stupid people who voted for Mamdani, the fake communist Muslim. The Speculator in the Garden of Numbers is too long a story, but I'll give you a short version of it. So he's this kind of resentful small bookstore owner in Manhattan. And then one day he makes a lot of money. I think I don't know how not a lottery. There's no lottery in those days. I think he speculates. He's a speculator in a Garden of Numbers. He invests in the commodities market. And on paper, this commie bookstore owner is making a lot of money, he thinks. And he can't believe how much money he's made on paper. And suddenly his view of the world starts to change. I got to read you this part. He thinks he's rich. Let's see, the farmer. I can't find it. You got to see this. And he thinks he bet 100% right on the cocoa crop. And he just can't believe how much money he's made on paper. And, and suddenly, as a capitalist who made money, he changes his worldview is not the same as it was when he was a poor bookstore owner. He's in bliss all of a sudden. And here it is. I got to read it to you. It was really funny when I wrote this back then. It's really The Speculator in the Garden. Now, I enjoyed this story a lot. Here it is. It's too long. I don't want to read it to you. I don't have the patience to read it to you. Sam felt other changes in the short while since he had become totally absorbed by his new reality of wealth. On paper, he was no longer tortured with questions about his adequacies as a man. And he goes on to how good he feels about the world. And he feels like a tremendously strong man all of a sudden because he has money. He doesn't feel inadequate. All of these thoughts and gripping feelings had mysteriously disappeared when Sam began his speculations in cocoa futures. Now his fears could only be activated by a falling price, his triumphs on a rise. The speculator was no longer preoccupied with his obsessional questions about himself, nor anything but his investment. For the first time in his adult life, he could honestly say he was happy. So he's happy because on paper he made a lot of money, right? And he sees himself doing some amazing things. So Sam saw himself, a gray-haired man, quite on in years, at the head of an oak dining table, surrounded by his smiling family. Even his smallest dependents were protected by his tapestry-covered walls, and Sam was the wisest elder of the tribe. How I achieved my wealth would be immaterial to my heirs, even the occasional poet among them, so long as they are remembered in the will. After all, the reasoning continued, the money won't be earned illegally, will it? But then Sam also saw himself as a doctor doing research in a lonely corner of a lonely room. Like so many Jewish men of his generation, somewhere within there was a latent healer. He had also considered devoting himself to becoming a serious writer who would write popular books about the right foods to eat, how to avoid being swindled, corruption in government, and even a series of instructional science books for children. While evaluating these possibilities, Sam glanced at the clock in his shop, then picked up the receiver of his phone to call his broker for the day's closing price for cocoa. It closed 1.75 for the day, Sam, at 65 even. Sam was sickened. Had he waited a little longer that day, he would have profited by $300 more per contract or $600 more for the day. Oh, what a nervous fool. And I remember $600 a day was a lot of money in the time this was written. Thought Sam, damn, what if it goes up tomorrow again? So then it's all about him watching the cocoa futures going up and down. He gets swindled by the broker, by the way, who screwed him. Watch out for commodities brokers. And he becomes poor again. He loses everything. And then he comes back to his bookstore, and I have to read you this. This is kind of fun. This is the Mamdani voter. After the loss, Sam was a changed person. That is, he reverted to a former self. The fallen ego could only pick up where it found itself, and that was when Sam had been about 10 years before, when he was a struggling poet. Not unexpectedly, he began to think and feel as he had during that time. He now hated all capitalists and capitalism and believed those in poverty were the only people capable of understanding life for what it is. He felt somehow ennobled for having gone through such a hell, and in a way was somehow more content with his life than he had been before his investment crashed. And then so it's a funny story how he goes from being this kind of leftist, and when he makes money on paper, he's suddenly a happy capitalist and he feels stronger. And then he loses it all because the broker swindled him. And then he reverts to the time he was just a Lower East Side poet. And that's who voted for Mamdani. They all think they're going to get rich quick with that commie, but they're not going to get rich quick. In fact, if he's not stopped, they're going to wind up fighting for a cigarette in the local bodega because there won't be any cigarettes in the bodega. They'll have to get them from their relatives in Omaha. Okay, folks, thank you very much. I think that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to close with train sounds. Let's see which one. Bulgarian, Hungarian, loud train horn. Let's see. That's the one I think you like. Bye-bye, and may you trolls choke on a turkey bone. And by the way, you trolls, don't take any vitamin C. Go eat rat shit. That's my thought for Thanksgiving. All you communists and your leftists and your Mamdani voters, go eat rat turd. That's what you deserve. Have a nice day. End stream.